right.
We're going to talk about disco.
Yeah.
No, that's not it. What was I thinking here? We're going to move into some modern stuff. That was Crossroads, of course.
That was Crossroads, which was popularized in that rock style by the Cream in the 60s.
Yes.
Which originally was written by Robert Johnson as part of the Delta Blues thing.
Exactly.
You can see the long thread in influence.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
There's a whole line of influence and lineage, not just through guitar styles and coming up through time, but whole songs, migrating, all the way to England in that case.
Yes.
Yeah.
Where would we be without Jimi Hendrix, Travis? Let's talk a little bit about influences. Where would we be without Jimmy?
This is what I want to ask you. I mean, you were already playing and gigging and stuff like that by the time Hendrix came along.
Yeah.
For you, what was it like? All of a sudden, here's this guy, this frizzy-haired guy, Jimi Hendrix. What was that like?
You know what? I've been playing guitar all my life, and I've never had anyone have the effect that Jimmy had on me the first time I heard him.
Mm-hmm.
First time I heard him, I was almost in disarray. I says, that guy's not from this planet. He can't be. I don't know what it is I'm listening to, but it's not like anything I've heard before.
And that's kind of lost on. I mean, people talk about other people that have come along that have been incredible, like Joe Satriani and
absolutely
Steve Vai. Kurt Cobain had his grunge style, and those guys they all changed a lot. Yngwie Malmsteen, Eddie Van Halen, of course,
absolutely.
But it's really true to say that Jimmy Page, but everybody holds a huge debt to Jimi Hendrix.
Yes,
and I was just a child when Hendrix passed away. but I always asked players that were really into their playing and really loving music and
Yes.
passionate about music in the
Yes.
60s that were playing rock and bop.
Yes.
And over and over, I get an answer like yours.
Yes.
You know, that
Yes.
they were just totally blown out of their seat. There was literally nothing like him before.
No, and I don't think there was been anything like him since.
No,
Personally,
he had a career that spanned 3 years.
yes, 3 years. Yeah, I think he was only 27 when he died.
He was only 20, yeah.
And the amount of work that he put out in that short period of time. You know, I saw an interview on YouTube. He was on Dick Cavett, and he said the reason I make so many mistakes is because I'm constantly striving for something new. But if you listen to Electric Ladyland, or if you listen to Live at Fillmore East, which was done in 1970, the year of Hendrix's death, he didn't make too many mistakes.
No,
On the
he,
contrary,
yeah.
it was very impressive, that concert.
Oh yeah, he would play. He would, you know, there's a quote out there saying that he never played the same. He never played things the same way once, let alone twice.
Yeah, yeah.
But he was, I guess with that type of a fertile genius, it was just constant ideas, musical
Yes.
ideas coming.
I mean, even jazz musicians loved him.
Oh yeah, yeah.
He just had a way of comping chord melody in a way that had not been done before.
Yeah.
He just opened up so many doors and so many influences. A whole generation of guitarists have been strongly influenced by Jimi Hendrix.
If he hadn't have died when he did that very week after the
Yeah.
weekend that he passed away, he would have been in the studio with Miles Davis
yeah,
working on the seminal album that became, you know, the seminal album for jazz fusion, which was Bitches Brew.
yes,
Yeah.
yes.
And instead they got John McLaughlin, which is still great. John's
Absolutely,
awesome.
of course.
But who's to say where he'd be now?
Yes, yes. You know, it's interesting. You know, in every generation, there's a small handful of players that almost, you know, captivate their peers and everybody else with their
Yeah.
stylistic
Yes. Yeah.
talent. And a couple of other people that I've really liked over the years, who I thought were excellent musicians. One was Larry Carlton. He has a style that sounds like he's singing when he's playing. Well, we're talking about singing and playing.
Yeah.
When Larry plays, it almost sounds like he's singing with his instrument.
Oh, yeah.
And he has such a nice style. And
Well, he wrote a lot of television show themes that actually went on to, he wrote the theme to Hill Street Blues.
yes,
And he wrote a theme to Who's the Boss and a whole bunch of stuff.
yeah, and he's very
Yeah.
widely respected.
Oh, yeah.
He's, I know he was one of the busiest studio sessions men in L.A., I believe, in the 70s. And guess who his favorite guitar player is, or at least one of his favorites? I heard him say it. Robin Ford.
There you go.
Robin Ford's another guy. He's a guitarist,
Oh
isn't
yeah.
he?
Yeah, he's got a style. I mean, you know, you can tell that him and Larry are from the same gene pool in
Yeah.
a way.
Yeah.
But I mean, Robin definitely has his own phrasing and rhythmic style.
He sure does.
And
yeah.
he's a very smart musician besides that, and does a
Yes.
lot of clinics.
Yes.
And he's fantastic in
Yeah.
in every way. He's a complete player.
yes.
Yeah,
Yes.
and actually, there's great YouTube footage of him and Larry playing together,
yes,
which
I've
is-
seen some of that.
which is
yes.
pretty humbling.
Oh, it sure is. It sure is. They're such great players, humbling and at the same time inspiring.
Now, you've got other influences that you've actually got a chance to meet
Yeah.
down through the years.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, you know, I was on the road for a long time. Actually, I remember once in 1972 we were playing. We opened for Kenny Rogers in the first edition
Nice.
in Niagara Falls.
Wow.
Yeah, yeah, and that was an interesting experience. And I remember once we were playing in Boston, and I couldn't believe my eyes. This guy walks in the restaurant, and I said to my fellow musician that was sitting next to me, I says, "Is that Jimmy Smith,
Really?
keyboard player?"
Yeah,
Jimmy
yeah,
Smith.
yeah. Yeah.
Jimmy Smith was so awesome. And he said, "Yeah, I think that's him." And I went over and I introduced him. He said, "Hey, man, how you doing?" He shook my hand. Wow. It was so cool. Yeah, it was too cool. Yeah. So, yeah, you know, you run into people over the years, and I know you've had a lot of experiences yourself because you played with a very and still do occasionally
Yep,
with a very popular group, Glamourpuss Blues Band.
Yeah, yeah.
And
East
you've
Coast.
traveled all over the world, really, over Europe and
Yeah, we
and the
traveled some
U.S.
spots
and
and got to meet a lot of really neat people.
and you've met some real interesting people.
Yeah,
in,
for
in your
sure.
travels.
Got to meet Les Paul, and we opened for BB King, so I got to meet him a couple of times.
Yeah.
And John Schofield, who's a very, very nice man, incredible. One
Yeah.
of these guys that just has his own style.
Yes.
And his own tone, and it really comes out in his personality. He's just this really nice fella.
Right.
Not threatened by anything musically.
Right.
He's his own man, so
Absolutely.
he can talk all day about guitar playing.
Absolutely.
And got to meet Little Milton and Johnny Johnson and Lonnie Brooks and his sons, and just a lot of great stuff. But like yourself, I was playing in a bar one time in Montreal, and there was a blues fellow that was headlining in another part of the club,
Yes.
and he was from L.A. And
Yeah.
his name was Byther Smith. He's an elder statesman of the blues.
Right.
And I didn't know it, but also in town was Steve Vai.
Oh.
And they're actually like next door neighbors. They live across the street from
Oh,
each
really?
other. So Steve wanders over to see Byther, and then they're chumming around, and they come and see the band playing in the smaller bar
Yeah.
downstairs.
Yeah.
And the keyboard player's looking at me laughing, and I'm like, "What are you laughing at, Raj?" And he's like, "Who's the guy in the $200 T-shirt?" I look over, it's Steve Vai, and they'd been sitting there listening for 3 or 4 tunes. They liked us all,
Right on.
stuff, but you feel about that tall.
Yeah. Yeah, it can be a little nerve-wracking, yeah.
You ran into one of the greatest guitar players that will probably ever live, Lenny Breau.
I saw Lenny Breau play at George's Spaghetti House. I believe it was 1971 or 72 in Toronto.
Okay. Wow.
And, sometimes you see someone and it's more than an experience. It's almost like a journey
Yeah.
that's embedded in your psyche that will never go away.
Oh, yeah.
And hearing Lenny Breau live did that to me.
Yeah.
I was totally mesmerized
Yeah.
by his skill and ability and originality, and it was just awestruck.
Yeah.
It was, yeah.
I had similar experiences when I got to hear BB King for the first time live.
Oh,
And
BB King, yeah.
people can go on about guitars and amps and tube amps and solid state, whatever, but he has a sound when he plays like a human voice.
Oh, he does.
When the sound system is great and it really projects what he's
Yes,
putting out there.
yes.
And I was very affected. I had heard Jimmy Vaughan and Stevie Ray Vaughan and Eric Clapton, and they'd all say that BB King is top of the heap. Especially Stevie, he would always say that BB's the man.
Oh,
and I'm
yeah.
always thinking he's great, and he invented vibrato.
He really has a vibrato like nobody else.
Like nobody
It's
else,
so
yeah.
smooth and
Oh, yeah.
so expressive, and so it gives you goosebumps.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Together with that phrasing that he has and that tone he has, it was like a human voice, and I was just because I seen Stevie Ray Vaughan years ago
Yes.
perform, and it was just one of those incredible nights. I couldn't believe anybody could play guitar like that.
Yes. Yes.
But I knew what he was talking about when I heard BB have
Yeah.
that singing guitar sound and then hit that vibrato. It was like,
Yeah.
you're right, he owns the blues genre on guitar. It's incredible. Got to meet and talk with a fellow by the name of Honey Boy Edwards, who was a
Yes.
traveling companion of Robert Johnson.
Oh, wow.
And they used to go out and play and play on alternate street
That must have been
corners.
quite a thrill.
It was, and it was scary all at the
Yeah.
same time, because the history of that particular gentleman
Yes.
is a huge history, and some of it dark, and some of it funny and stuff. But he's quite a dude, and he was
Yeah.
in his 80s when I met him.
Yes.
And he continued on playing. He only died in the past year or two.
Right.
He was well into his 90s when he passed away.
Mm-hmm.
And we played Hideaway to start off at the Montreal Jazz Festival, and he was setting up while we were playing. And I run up to the Place des Arts area to hear
Yes.
him play.
Yes.
And what's he start out with but Hideaway?
Oh.
Which is incredible because he was old enough to be Freddie King's dad probably or
Yeah.
something, right? But he did it in the old Delta way. There wasn't a 12-bar pattern to be found.
Right.
And me and the bass player, Paulie, are standing there and watching him play, figuring our way through it. And then when it ends, it's just like, that was one of the most perfect things I've ever heard.
Yes.
I'll never be able to do it,
Yeah.
but it was incredible.
Yeah.
So, I mean, we both spent a lot of time on the road and poured our lives into guitar for
Yes.
for many years and stuff.
Yes.
And people will say funny things to musicians like, oh, all those years and you got nothing to show for it. Life experience is worth more than a
is.
fat wallet. That's
It
for
is.
sure.
It is.
So I'll
Yeah.
never trade any of that stuff. Opening for Colin James and meeting him, finding out what kind of a sweet man he was. And,
Great artist. I love
yeah,
Colin
very
James.
very
Yeah.
humble, and hanging out with Les Paul for 20 minutes and
Yeah.
stuff like that.
Yeah.
That's all stuff that you know. It doesn't leave your heart or your
doesn't.
head. Yeah,
It doesn't.
You look at a guitar and you think about all these greats, and
Yeah.
keeps you
yeah.
humble.
It sure does. Sure. I mean, I mean, with all the, there's so many great players today because there's so many more educational resources today
Yeah.
that are available to people playing that were when we were growing up. It wasn't as widespread. There was no internet. And,
That's right.
And it's, and that's contributed to that wide influx of great musicians, which is great. I thought maybe, Travis, what we could do is just maybe illustrate a few songs that were really popular
Yep.
that make extensive use of the blues scale or the minor pentatonic scale,
Sure.
which is really the blues scale, just without the blue note.
Yeah.
And just to continue to show how the evolution of blues has permeated
Exactly.
our society,
Yeah.
and maybe we could start with Sunshine of Your Love by Eric
Sure.
Clapton. Now
Sure.
that uses the blues scale verbatim.
Oh yeah.
Like if I play my blues scale here, I got, it's right out of your blues scale.
Yep.
It's
Exactly.
verbatim.
It's
you know?
awesome.
Yeah. And I mean, that was a big hit.
Huge.
That was huge.
Yeah, that launched the cream.
So let's
Yeah.
just play a little bit of it. and
Okay.
Just to show everybody
Sure.
how real the blues has influenced
All
our
right.
music.
Let's do it.
Okay. You go ahead. You can start off.
Okay.
There we go. You hear the blues scale written all over that one.
Oh yeah, yeah. I mean, you can play blues all over it while the rhythm's going on, and even the single notes are happening, and there's no
Yeah.
clashing or anything.
Yeah,
It's all
yeah.
blues.
Another one that comes to my mind, and I mean, we're just picking a couple of tunes.
Yeah.
In reality, there's actually thousands that,
Yeah.
that we could have picked if we would have had the time
Oh yeah.
to look.
I mean, you got Joe Bonamassa home writing more right now.
There you go. There you go. How about maybe Purple Haze by Hendrix?
Oh yeah. Awesome.
Now that used the E minor pentatonic scale for the main riff.
Yeah.
So here's your E minor.
Yep.
So
Yeah.
minor pentatonic.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So Hendrix, the interesting thing about Hendrix is that he would use elements like that, but he would use it in a way, in a real, like, I mean, music's really a rehash of previous stuff.
For sure.
And the thing I like a lot about Hendrix is that he could take something that was so normal and make it sound so fresh.
Exactly.
Make it sound so fresh.
Like the riff to Voodoo Child. It's a
wait,
Muddy
wait.
Waters riff. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
And
Another
he
blues.
just made it sound like huge. Oh yeah. Yeah,
And the same-
exactly.
yeah, it's amazing.
Yeah.
Okay, let's just do just a little bit of Purple Haze just
Okay.
to show that, okay? 1, 2, 3, 4. There we go. Amazing. That was a good tune per place.
That was. When you think about it, even the solo, there was blues, but it was mixed in with some modal stuff.
Exactly.
And it was just like this it was really strange to hear it. When I first heard it, it was different from everything else in the early 80s.
Yes.
But in the late 60s, it must have been just like you say, like, what planet is this guy from?
Yeah. Yeah, really.
Yeah. He's definitely, I mean, Eric had a career before that. There was some other guys, Jeff Beck, that had fooled around with feedback and stuff like that.
Yes.
But really, these guys actually got together and had like secret meetings when he came to England.
Yeah.
And didn't like, here's Pete Townsend and Eric Clapton at a movie theater. This is true.
Yes.
And Pete Townsend's like, really, Eric, what are we to do now? It seems to be all over for us. You know?
Yeah. Yeah. I'll tell you another guitar player I like a lot that's deeply rooted in the blues, Joe Walsh,
Joe Walsh, yeah.
that used to play with the James Gang.
Yeah.
And plays with the Eagles. And it's been with the Eagles for quite a while.
Yeah.
But he did a tune called Funk 49.
Sure.
That's a straight pentatonic.
Yeah. Yeah.
And even the main riff is like Muddy Waters' Mojo.
Yes. Yep.
It's very
Oh, yeah.
Mojo-ish.
Yeah, exactly.
Except he did it more as a rock thing.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Let's just do a little bit of that. That makes me think of something, just since we went over that, Travis. Another common thing that you hear a lot of guitarists do, and Jimmy was a real master at it, is keeping the rhythm going with his right hand. And
Yeah.
even getting single notes in between,
Oh,
like,
yeah.
So y'all got that constant rhythm.
Oh, yeah.
That's a real
Yep.
nice technique to do.
Oh, for sure.
And, that can be learned for the benefit of those watching that might not be aware of that technique. You just kind of cover all the strings and just learn to get single note. Like if I put my first finger down, I got that note.
Yeah.
And then I can do whatever I want with this hand, right?
Yeah.
Vary the rhythms.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
You got Stevie Ray Vaughan doing stuff like
exactly.
and you had him doing stuff like
Right. Exactly.
which is great.
Yeah.
It fills it up with a trio.
It does.
Yeah.
It does. Yeah,
Yeah, some great, and it's the basis for really great funk playing. Jimmy Nolan was a guy who had that scratch funk thing, and he played with
Yes.
James Brown.
Yes.
Hendrix just took it and, went wham here.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Oh, yeah.
He really took it to almost another level, I would
Oh,
say.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
Another tune that comes to my mind, Travis, is "Life in the Fast Lane" by the
Okay,
Eagles.
sure.
Like that's right from your blues scale.
Exactly.
That's right from your.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Very interesting.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. That was a good Joe Walsh, another tune.
Yeah.
I'm sure he probably got that lick in that tune.
Yes.
I would say because it's a very Joe Walshy
Yeah, exactly.
type of yeah.
I think Walsh was also not only influenced by Hendrix, but knew him.
Oh,
If I'm not
really?
mistaken.
Yeah.
I think they had shared some. They had opened for Hendrix or something like that in the.
Yeah.
I can't remember what his early band was,
Yeah.
but anyway, they kind of crossed some paths and stuff.
Yeah.
Like that, so.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, the whole blues rock movement. I mean, a lot of it was really overdriven, distorted blues licks at a more aggressive type of a pace.
Yeah. Yeah.
And you had groups like the Yardbirds out of England, and
Right.
I mean that was before Cream and even John Mayall and
Right.
stuff, right?
Right.
They turned into more of a pop band, and
Yes.
Eric hopped, skipped, and jumped up until he got to Derek and the Dominoes and
Yes.
even Dwayne Allman.
Yes.
And that's a whole other thing, the whole slide lead style that we'll have to cover
Yeah.
at another time.
Yes. Yes.
But it's really fun to follow, like you were saying, that thread
yeah.
from
Yeah.
Charlie Patton and all the different players that recorded blues and with blues styles and stuff. With some were the solo Delta blues guys or the Texas guys,
Yeah.
and some of them they were playing with other bands at the time. And there's just a few kind of blurbs of their playing style.
Yeah.
But you follow that and you read up on the rich history of all the players, and you just we've not even scratched the surface
Not even
of what
begun.
you can find. And I remember during if you want to take it to the point of the Black Album by Metallica, and Kirk Hammett finally saying, I've kind of embraced some of that blues style.
Yes.
And you hear that on that Black Album.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Where it was more scalar before on
Right.
Justice for All and the whole thing.
Right.
And you can hear him doing like,
Right.
and
Right.
then he of course had some of the different modes and scales to throw in there
Right.
to jazz it up. But
Right.
he was doing a lot more bluesy playing there. And it really it's we got the Black Keys now and the White Stripes and all these pop bands.
Yes. Yes.
But they're carrying on the whole blues thing.
Right.
It's changed up and it sounds different,
yes.
but no more different than when Muddy Waters had a whole band doing what one guy used to do, and you had the drummer doing the backbeat, you had the harmonica player
Exactly.
doing the fills,
Exactly.
and the electric bass still hadn't really come along yet.
Yes.
So that stuff
Yes.
was, the bass lines were done on the solo lines on the top three strings of the guitar.
Right. Right.
But and then it was just a big sound that when you listen to some of the early Muddy Waters stuff, it was just him playing. He just divided everything up into
Right.
pieces.
Right.
And the Chicago blues turned into rock and roll, which came into blues rock. And
Yeah, it's amazing.
I don't know how yet we can explain Lady Gaga, but
I read a long time ago, probably 3 or 4 years ago, and I think it's an understatement. And I can't remember who made the statement. And it's, we live in a pentatonic culture.
oh, for sure, if you look at
Now, how many solos do you hear that don't? And I'm not talking blues per
Yeah.
se. I'm just talking about using that scale as part of their soloing.
Yeah.
In all styles and aspects of music, it's so prevalent.
You can find
it's-
chunks of the pentatonic scale in a lot of different cultures and stuff.
Yeah.
But you only get that blues scale from that African American, whatever brought the whole African American experience,
Right.
coming through in their musicality, their
Yes.
troubles and their strife and
Yes.
and their victories,
Right.
and those blue notes pop in, and no, exactly. I mean, you hear so much music today. that people have no idea. I mean, Travis Tritt recorded a Buddy Guy tune, almost, perfect note for note. It was a shuffle. It was a
Yes.
Chicago-style blues, and it was on this country record.
Yeah.
And if you play that for people, they'd say, "Oh, I love that tune." You say it's blues. No way, it's a country tune.
Yeah,
So
exactly.
it's just about getting people out of their comfort zone a
Yeah.
little bit and saying that's actually this, and opening up their mind to it. Because I remember when I was a little kid, and somebody'd say blues, I had no idea what it was. I thought it was jazz. That was all instrumental, and that I couldn't figure out for the life of me.
Yeah.
Where's the rhythm? There's no melody,
Right.
all this. As you grow older as a musician, you get experienced in those things, then you're able to appreciate it. But blues, it's just its own thing.
It is.
Yeah,
It
it's
is.
so cool.
So this has been a real enjoyable experience.
I've had a great time.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
with these studio lights, I think I finally have a tan.
Maybe we can jam out then.
We could do it. Let's try some of this.
That's all, folks.
All right.